Welcome to the late show here.
Go ahead, y'all.
Good to be here at the state convention. Go ahead.
Well, Russ, you talked about Ron Johnson outsourcing his campaign to out-state groups, but League Conservation Voters will run ads for you. What's the difference between them and that?
Well, the difference is real clear. He's got super PACs that are directly associated with people that he is associated with, the Koch brothers. You know, there are independent groups that are able to do these ads. I regret that that's allowed, but his whole campaign so far has been based largely on the Koch brothers' money coming out of Kansas. And my campaign ads that you've seen are based on 30,000 Wisconsin contributors. The average contribution is less than $50. 96% of the contributions are $100 or less. So the difference is night and day. And the fact is, I proposed a way to prevent this, and Senator Johnson ignored it. I proposed a Badger pledge. I would have said, this is about a year ago, I would have said, look, we can stop this, as they did in Massachusetts, by making sure if somebody does those ads on your behalf that you'll pay half of the value of those ads to a charity of your opponent's choice. He ignored that, and here's the difference. He loves this system. He calls it free speech. I call it corruption. That's the difference between us.
Russ, how do you feel about the superdelegate resolution that delegates are going to be taking up tomorrow?
You know, I think the superdelegate system has to be considered a problem. I think we have to really reevaluate it. I've never liked it. I've always preferred a system that's based on the pure voting and delegations that come from the majority votes, or however they want to split up the votes. So I think it's very appropriate that Wisconsin is taking a look at this. I think examining it in that way is in the spirit of fighting Bob LaFollette.
Do you think the delegates should vote for that resolution tomorrow?
Well, I think that's surely up to them. If I were a delegate sitting in the room, my guess is I probably would vote for that resolution. But I think that's up to the delegates.
You had kind words for Hillary and for Bernie, but you've not ever told us who you voted for. So
And I'm not going to tell you now.
Why
Yeah,
not? Why not?
because, and I've said repeatedly, I feel like I have a role to play here in the state. I want to bring everybody together for all of our sakes to make sure that we have a good result in November. I think there's wonderful people on both sides. I know both of the candidates well, having served with them in the United States Senate, and I don't see any useful purpose in taking sides in that way. I'm going to help whoever it is, and I suspect the person who doesn't get the nomination is going to do that too. So I just don't see any purpose in discussing it.
And in your travels around the state, presumably you're talking to supporters of both candidates. Are you getting a sense that Hillary supporters will support Bernie and vice versa?
No one travels the state more than I do. I've been to both, every one of the counties, 72 counties, twice. I'm amazed at how united people are about the bottom line, which is they want to make sure we win the presidency. So there's some that obviously would prefer Bernie and some that would prefer Hillary, but I've seen different campaigns where things are really bitter. I don't feel it's that way at all, and I think everybody's going to come together very effectively, you know, as long as we're patient. If people say things like, well, Bernie's got to drop out now and this kind of stuff, I don't think that serves any useful purpose. Let it play out. There's still plenty of time for a very unified convention and a very unified November.
Every person tonight, every speaker took swipes at Trump. Is that Democrats' best strategy toward winning?
No, the best strategy toward winning is making sure you reflect the needs of middle income and working families. That's what I talked about primarily. That's what the Democratic Party has to be about. However, if you don't point out the inadequacies of their candidate, that's a mistake. I mean, look, we're electing the President of the United States. The person that the Republicans are going to put forward is an irresponsible person who Hillary Clinton correctly pointed out has a completely incoherent view of foreign policy. And it's a dangerous thing for America to have this person in office. But in the end, I think the most important thing is to make sure that we are showing that we're going to increase the minimum wage, provide family leave, do something about student loans, build the infrastructure of the country, provide broadband. You can see from the reaction to my speech, this is what people actually care about. And we as Democrats need to be talking about that more than anything else, including Donald Trump.
Have you thought about asking the third-party groups like League of Conservation Voters to quit spending money on your behalf?
I have proposed the only thing that will work.
I know,
and
but Ron Johnson hasn't accepted that.
Right.
That's not going to happen.
I am interested in something that would actually have an effect. Obviously, these groups have a constitutional right to do this. It has to have some impact on the candidates, and that's why the Warren Brown approach worked. The fact that Ron Johnson hasn't agreed to it is, you know, his business, and it's a little cynical, to be honest with you, because the truth is he really likes these kinds of ads.
But you're not gonna ask the groups to.
I have
spend-
asked for the Badger Pledge to be enacted to make sure that this doesn't happen. Nothing else will work.
If you were still in office, you'd be a superdelegate. Would you follow results of the statewide election here in Wisconsin and cast your ballot for Bernie? Or would you exercise your own judgment in backing somebody at the convention?
I am not in office.
But if you were,
I'm not in office.
when you were superdelegate before,
How do I know?
would you follow the statewide results before when you were in office?
I would be inclined to do that, but I am not in office and I'm not a superdelegate.
We heard from Bernie Sanders supporters earlier this afternoon who said that superdelegates and party leaders have stacked the deck in favor of Hillary Clinton. Do you agree with that?
I'm very concerned that people feel good about this process, and that's why I think that the superdelegate piece should be reformed. My understanding is that Hillary Clinton is ahead in regular delegates as well, but you still have this problem of this sort of group of people that were sort of automatically delegates, and I would prefer that system be changed.
Do you think she's been given any kind of a boost though by the superdelegates, by party leaders?
She-
in
if
terms
she is-
of a
if
lot of
she-
superdelegates that right out of the gates coming out in support of her and other things.
I mean, obviously people have chosen Bernie Sanders in many states despite that. It obviously hasn't intimidated people.
What does superdelegate reform look like to you? Is it proportional to the way that that person's state voted?
I mean, I think each state gets to have some decision about whether they want to have winner take all or whether they want to have, proportional. I think you could have flexibility on that, but that's up to the Democratic Party. It's not something I feel that I need to micromanage.
Donald Trump has now, in the last week, referred to a federal judge, as a Mexican when in fact he was born in the United States, and he also referred to my African American while on the stump. I mean, do you think that sort of language is going to be helpful to him in Wisconsin, or do you think he'll be rejected?
I think the language he is using in the context of this judge, the language he's used in the other contexts, is disqualifying for him to be president of the United States. And I don't think anybody who is serious about this country, including Senator Johnson or Paul Ryan, should be supporting somebody who would use such horrible remarks. This country needs to be beyond this. I am outraged by it, and Donald Trump has no business being anywhere near the White House because of the way he is treating people from different backgrounds in our country.
Any final questions?
Thank you all.
Thanks, Jones.
Right? Correct.